Strategic Marketing, Lecture 9, Promotional Strategy. We cling to that word promotion only because it begins with the letter P, but the letter I is more appropriate. Integrated Marketing Communications is the more accurate and relevant label today, as it rightly conveys a coordinated system of communications tactics to create and support a consistent message for a company's brand and products. IMC was almost forced into marketing theory as a direct result of the tech revolution beginning in the 90s and continuing today. The pervasiveness of message sending and receiving necessitated a more controlled approach by firms. In this talk, we touch on 3 chapters of Kotler's Marketing Management, 16, 17, and 18, and look at 6 learning objectives. We'll determine the role of IMC in reaching objectives. We'll look at the relationship between IMC and brand equity. We'll take a look at the IMC mix and the 7 components thereof. We'll identify the target market of the message and identify IMC objectives before finally taking a look at 4 ways to develop an IMC budget. First, the role. Here's the definition. The means by which firms attempt to inform, persuade, and remind consumers directly or indirectly about the products and brands they sell is the definition of IMC, but those 3 key words, inform, persuade, and remind, factor deeply into everything we discuss here. But the role of IMC goes deeper than that. The role is to create a voice for a company, for a brand, even for individual products, and in so doing it should generate dialogue between company and customer and go deeper into developing relationships and finally coming up with customer equity, a financial value of customers towards a company. As far as the relationship between IMC and brand equity goes, well, brand equity is deeply reliant on IMC to create things like brand memory, brand image, and more importantly, create linkages between the brand and people, places, things, events, feelings, and most importantly, experiences. This is what IMC does. The IMC mix has 7 components. In the old days of the promotional mix, there were 5, but IMC has created growth in this area. Advertising remains as a key component of IMC, as does sales promotions, public relations, direct marketing, and personal selling. But we've also added events and experiences and word of mouth as well. Note, this list could be shown in a continuum from mass, non-personal communication, such as advertising, to very personal communications, such as personal selling. The message is targeted at your target market, and by the time you develop your IMC strategies, you have long since established the target market for your product. Now you must revisit that market and determine how they will be reached most effectively. What mediums of advertising do they use, if any? Are they responsive to pricing incentives and other sales promotions? Will they be more responsive if the message comes through news media? Is there an existing number of known customers to whom direct marketing can begin? And what is their comfort level with using technology to interact? Perhaps they are laggards in the process and pick up information through word of mouth, or maybe the product itself dictates a more personal experience that will ultimately be required to secure a sale. IMC objectives are threefold. We talked about these earlier on: to inform, to persuade, and to remind, but these are inextricably tied to the stage of the product life cycle, or even the brand life cycle that it's currently in. The introductory stage requires information to be received, growth requires persuading to compete against rivals, and maturity calls for constant reminding of product relevancy and need. An infinite number of SMART objectives can be formulated under any of these categories. Now, the budget. You gotta spend money to make money, as the old business mantra goes, but it resonates never more deeply than the formulation of the IMC budget. But how much needs to be spent? There are essentially 4 methods of coming up with a budget. 1, affordable, which is basically what's left over after other costs and expenses have been burned. Not a great method, but better than nothing. 2, percentage of sales, which is what will be earned will require a certain percentage to earn it. Okay, but it sort of assumes that sales determine communications rather than the other way around. 3, competitive parity, staying in step with what competitors are doing and creating a share of voice amongst those competitors. And 4, objective and task, which is the most reliable and time-consuming, but also the most expensive budget-setting method. It involves research into target market and their media usage habits. So the 4th and final P is really now the IMC. Everything discussed here flows from a single path, which has the sole purpose of ensuring that all efforts in bringing a product to market to satisfy the need which triggered the